Hi, welcome to Yoke's YouTube channel. I'm Liz Matthew, the regulated Canadian immigration consultant. Thanks for tuning in. Today, one of the most discussed topic is how is my Canadian experience class hours calculated? How does IRCC look at it? And this is one of the biggest reasons people get refused under the express entry is because they don't understand how IRCC calculates the Canadian work experience under the Canadian experience class. So today we will be looking at some of these scenarios to explain to you what needs to be done, how IRCC looks at it. So let's dive into the video. So what is CEC? CEC stands for Canadian Experience Class. What generally it entails is at least you require at least 1 year of skilled Canadian work experience, either in a tier 0, 1, 2, 3 category occupation. Tier, as it stands for training, experience, education, and your responsibilities need to be there, and you have gained while authorized to work in Canada within the 3 years before you apply, and it needs to be paid work, and you must have performed the lead statement and most of the duties in the NOC code. That is the main eligibility criteria to be eligible under the Canadian experience class. Most of you might be familiar with the number 1560. IRCC says basically 1 year of Canadian work experience equals 30 hours per week. That is basically for 52 weeks. And this equals to 1560. 30 hours per week, 52 weeks in a year gives that number 1560. And IRCC counts a maximum of 30 hours per week towards meeting the minimum CEC requirement, and working 40 or 50 or 60 hours every week does not allow you to qualify faster, as this is one of the major concerns that people do have. Can I do it sooner? Let's look at an example. John works 40 hours per week from January 1st to December 1st, and actual hours he worked was 40 times 52 adds up to 2080 hours. But as I mentioned earlier, IRCC counts only 30 hours per week for 52 weeks. So 30 times 52 equals 1560 hours. Yes, John is eligible under the Canadian experience class. Even though this particular example, he worked 2080 hours, IRCC counts only 30 hours per week toward the minimum eligibility requirements. And can you qualify in 10 months for Canadian experience class? Well, the straight up answer is no. As I mentioned to you, you cannot speed up IRCC's process, as they count only 30 hours per week, even if you did 40 or 50 or 60 hours per week to finish up your hours. So you have to every week 30 hours for a year for 52 weeks to help you out to gain that eligibility criteria. So let's look at a part-time example. Sarah basically works for 15 hours per week and for 24 months. And how that is calculated is 15 times 104 weeks. So 104 is basically 1 year is just 52 weeks. 2 years is 104 weeks. So that adds up to 1560 hours. And yes, Sarah will be eligible in 2 years if she does a part-time 15 hours per week minimum. Let's look at another example where there is 2 part-time jobs. Suppose an individual works for a job A 18 hours per week and a job B for 12 hours per week. So the total adds up to 30 hours per week in the same week. Since it's 30 hours per week, yes, this job is eligible for CEC, Canadian Experience Class, and this adds up to 1560 hours if worked for 52 weeks. So real life healthcare worker example. Let's look at it. So from January to December, an individual worked for as a care team assistant for 22 hours per week and a patient transporter for 8 hours per week. Both are in a tier 0, 1, 2, 3 category job. Combined, it is a 30-hour per week. And yes, this combination will also help towards meeting the eligibility criteria of Canadian experience class if worked for a year. And what does not really count for Canadian experience class? Here's something that you got to watch out for. It cannot be volunteer work. It cannot be unpaid internships, work performed without authorizations are not allowed under the Canadian experience class, and Canadian experience gained while you are a full-time student, including co-op, does not help in meeting your Canadian experience class requirement. And common mistakes is IRCC counts only a maximum of 30 hours per week. This is something that people do misinterpret. They try to work longer hours to get their CEC eligibility met faster, but that's not how it works. And you still need the required period of work experience. That is very much important. And part-time jobs, 2 part-time jobs at the same time, that also does help you for Canadian experience class. The final takeaway in this is if you have a tier 0, 1, 2, 3 category job with a minimum 30 hours per week done for 52 weeks, this does help you. And also, if you did 2 part-time jobs or you did 1 part-time job for 2 years or 2 part-time jobs at the same time for 1 year, will help you meet the eligibility criteria for Canadian experience class. Please do reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you out. Hopefully this video has been helpful. Leave us a comment in the comment box. We'll be happy to hear from you. See you all in the next video.